Hello Dragon Wisps, welcome to today's video. Today we're going to be covering my favorite class, the Rogue. Just a reminder that we're doing this in the 3.5 edition of Dungeons & Dragons, so these rules might not necessarily apply to rogues in 5th edition. Nobody plays 4th edition, or even 2nd or 1st, or even just 3rd edition, because 3.5 was more of an add-on for 3rd edition, where it changed some rules, made them better. Anyway, but I digress. Before I begin, I'd like to remind you to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet to become a Dragon Wisp. And if you would like to support the channel more directly, you can do so at the Patreon and shop links in the description below. Now, another big part, is we're almost done. After Rogue, I believe it's just Sorcerer and Wizard, which are almost the same class, so I might even make that one video. Maybe not. And then it's time to move on to, I believe, explaining skills and then feats. So, without further ado, sit back, relax, and let's make a rogue. Alrighty, so I can pretty much make a rogue in my sleep, but I'm still going to go through what the book says. I don't use the book for a lot of making a rogue. It's primarily like equipment and stuff, but even that I'm beginning to really just know off by heart. So anyway, the abilities that you're going to need as a rogue are dexterity and intelligence and wisdom. Dexterity, because obviously you're not going to be wearing heavy armor or anything, so you're going to need to be able to dodge, plus a lot of the skills, like open lock and everything, require dexterity. Intelligence for your skill points in general, because rogues have what my old group used to like to call all the best parts of the Bible when it comes to skills. There's very few that they don't have, so having more skill points obviously would be extremely beneficial. And then wisdom as a third ability, just because again a lot of your skills do require wisdom. But then I also recommend having a good constitution, because you're a rogue, you're generally not frontline infantry, but when you are, you want to be able to take those hits. They don't mention it, but charisma is also usually a big one for rogues. Your ability to talk your way out of trouble, for example. No, I assure you, I was not stealing his money. No. I found the money bag, the coin purse, lying on the floor of the tavern, so I picked it up and was going to return it. Here you go, kind sir. Yeah, there's nothing like talking your way out of trouble. Rogues can be any alignment, generally tend to be chaotic, because a lot of what rogues are about isn't lawful, as it were. That being said, rogues don't have to be thieves. Like, that's a common misconception. I actually had a player who thought, he's a bit of a newer player, so I won't hold it against him too much, but he thought the entire purpose of the rogue was to be a little thief, which is half right if you're following the stereotypes. However, I recommend every party have a rogue just for the skills alone. There have been too many adventures that have just fallen flat because of a locked door or a locked chest or traps that are too powerful for even the barbarian when raging to get through unscathed. So, having a rogue along is a good idea, and I'd like to reiterate, they aren't just thieves. Of course, if that's how you want to play your rogue, that's fine. obviously you're going to focus your skills more on being a thief, but it's really useful to have those skills along. That being said, Bard does have a fair amount of the rogue skills, but definitely doesn't have the skills that the rogue has. And you get a d6 as your hit die. So at first level, you get 6 plus your constitution modifier, and then every level thereafter, you roll a 6-sided die to determine how many hit points you've gained. Right, now let's get into the first level stats. So at first level, rogues have a base attack bonus of 0, a fortitude save, of 0, reflex save of 2 because you've got to dodge traps and things like that, and a will save of 0. Obviously these stats go up, but not 100% good to have at the beginning. That's zeros. The special abilities that the rogue gains at level 1 are sneak attack for 1d6, which I will explain in a moment, and trap finding. Trap finding allows your rogue to find traps. However, this also includes magical traps, traps with a DC of 20 or more. And it allows them to use disable device to disarm magic traps. Magic traps tend to have a DC of 25 plus the level of the spell used to create it. Which, is fine and all. A rogue that can beat the DC of a trap by 10 or more with a disable device check can study, figure out how it works, and bypass it with the rogue's party without actually disarming it, so they, the rogue and their party can get through, but let's say somebody's following them, or they want it to look like nobody's been here, apart from the dusty footsteps. Leaving the trap as it is could cause someone following them to get slowed down, or worse. Obviously if somebody's checking, like, I'm just going to make sure my traps are still good to go. Alright, nobody's been here, sort of thing. So that allows them. And that's trap sense. So that's a different situation entirely. Alright, so that's trap finding. And then we have, I've got a story about trap finding, and I'm going to save that for a different video because it gets me a bit heated up and I don't want to do that for this video. Now, sneak attack. Sneak attack is fantastic. Anytime you catch an opponent flat-footed with a melee attack or with a ranged attack within 30 feet, you do extra damage. For example, at level 1, it's 1d6. Now, there are so many nice ways to manipulate this, because the wording exactly is flat-footed. So anytime somebody's flat-footed, you get your sneak attack. Let's say you're flanking with somebody. Sneak attack. One of the options in the Player's Handbook 2, which I'm going to cover in another video, because there are other classes, but like I said, class options are available. Rangers have an ability called the distracting shot. Now, if you get a ranger and a rogue working together with that, it's incredible, because what it is the ranger uses distracting shot, and the target is flat-footed until the ranger's next move. So you have the ranger go, distracting shot, then you have the rogue, sneak attack, distracting shot, sneak attack, distracting shot, sneak attack. It's fantastic. We've actually implemented that a couple of times back when I was still a player and not forever DM. So, so like I said, sneak attack is fantastic. However, like I also said, ranged attacks have to be within 30 feet to get that sneak attack. Another situation that a certain dungeon master did not follow the rules for and tried to kill one of my characters, and it was horrifying because it was my first time using a magic user. I think I've explained this, but anyway. So those are your abilities for starting at level 1. You gain much better ability, like more abilities as you go. Your sneak attack increases, you gain trap sense, evasion, special abilities, stuff like that. But we'll cover that in a leveling up video. Alright, moving along. Your weapon and armor proficiency. Rogues are proficient in all simple weapons, plus the hand crossbow, rapier, sap, short sword, and short bow. And they're proficient with light armor, but not shields. Anything bigger than that gets clunky, slows you down, makes noise. You don't want that. Now, I want you to sit back and listen as I go through the extensive list of skills that a rogue receives. Appraise, balance, bluff. If you're following along with a character sheet, you might want to be putting little X's in the class skill box. Appraise, balance, bluff, climb, craft, decipher script, diplomacy, disable device, disguise, escape artist, forgery, gather information, hide, intimidate, jump, knowledge local, listen, move silently, open lock, perform, profession, search, sense motive, sleight of hand, spot, swim, tumble, use magic device, and use rope. Like I said, all the best parts of the Bible. And don't be intimidated by this lengthy list of skills, because as a rogue, at first level, you gain 8 plus your intelligence modifier times 4 skill points. So let's say you've got an 18 in your intelligence. That's a plus 4. So you're starting with 12 times 4 skill points. If you're a human, you have 4 more than that. So, yeah. Rogues are your primary skill user when putting them in your party. I think at the end of these, like once I'm done going through the creating character videos, I'm gonna create a character of each race / class to demonstrate how they're done. But anyway, that covers the level 1 rogue statistics. Stay tuned for the next video. Not the next video. Stay tuned for the my most liked and my least liked rogue characters, which will be starting right now. So I'm going to start with my least favorite. This was more of a, like, it was my second character I ever made, my first one being a dwarf fighter. I went with the rogue because I wanted to try something different. It was an elf rogue, if I'm correct. I don't really remember all the details. We only played one session because the DM running it, I don't want to say was inexperienced, but had no idea what he was doing. He had a good idea. He ran with it for the first session and then just had nothing left. So it was a one-shot, which was unfortunate because it was a first level game. Generally, when you make a level 1 character, you want it to last more than one session. Like, if you're going to do a one-shot, you got to be at least mid-level, maybe even high level. So, you know, it's like you start off, you're all level 20, we have some dragons to hunt down or something like that. But level 1, there's just so many possibilities. You spend all this time making your character, planning what your character is going to be in the future, and there's no future. But this was my second character, So I had issues with the creation of him, just because I didn't know what I was doing. So I did things like make him into a thief, which like does happen at the beginning, no lie. But like, that's all he was, and that's why he's my least favorite. He was two-dimensional. He could open locks and he could disable devices, but he couldn't sneak, he couldn't hide. He had no gather information skills, none of that. So, you know, he could pick the lock and get inside, but everyone will see and hear him. And he won't even know if he's picking the right lock. But moving on to my favorite. I've actually got two favorites because it was extremely difficult looking through my rogues to pick my favorite. So my first one was Lucius Beaumont. He was fantastic. He spoke like this. Every single time he spoke, it was like this. Almost a whisper, but a menacing one. And Lucius Beaumont was fantastic. He had so much confidence, ran around doing everything. You know, he could sneak, he could listen, he could gather information, he could pick the locks. But where he really shined, where he really stood out, was his forgery skills. Near the end of the campaign, we had taken a job to go eliminate a head of an evil cult in his manor. So we got there, we did our thing, we cleared the place out of the bad guys, got to the boss room, and we took care of him too. But as Lucius was checking his body, ended up coming across the deed to the manor, and that's when it was ding, light bulb. So he used his forgery skill to sign the deed off to himself, changed the name of the place to Casa de Lucius and everything. It was fantastic. So now not only did we have a base of operations, but as he was looking around, he ended up finding a self-sustaining gem mine underneath the manor. So we had a base of operations, we had a steady source of income, we had everything. And started recruiting because we decided, hey, you know what, let's make a whole mercenary force. So he was hanging up signs in town, you know, if you're looking for work, come join us. You can't miss us. We're here at Casa de Lucius. All the other guys were like, we're not calling it that. You have to call it that. It's in the deed. It's the name of the manor. And it was fantastic. I enjoyed it until we stopped. My other one, I believe his name was Alucard. He was Dragonborn. He wasn't a Dragonborn at the beginning. At the beginning, I believe he was just a human. But one of the other players, his character was a nighttime vigilante called the Crow. And, no, the Raven. He was the Raven. So, you know, he was doing good. You know, putting away the bad guys, and they all knew it was him because he would caw when he was about to strike. So then Alucard was like, you know what, I've been helping with this vigilante stuff, I want to be one too. So his name became the Owl. So, you know, when the Raven would yell caw, Alucard would go hoo. It was fantastic. Ended up finding a kobold who forged his blades for him in a nice crimson color. He became the Crimson Avenger, the Owl, everything. And he ended up getting hired to eliminate an extremely crooked businessman. Like, the entire thing was just put him out of business, stop him from being able to continue further. He was working for a black market halfling named Kelby Blackshirt. He was part of a long line of black market merchants, but they were like good black market merchants, so he didn't feel bad about it. And so he went to break into this guy's shop, and he's like, I could plant evidence, you know, I could do this, I could do that. I'm gonna rob him. So, and he had like 3 bags of holding, so he's just going around the store shoving stuff into these bags. I'm like, you know, I'm gonna use detect magic. This a scroll he had, and like, everything was magical. He's like, this is just fantastic. I checked for traps. Oh, you don't find any traps. Okay, cool. So I continue stealing. My detect trap, like my trap sense, came out at like 38. So that's pretty high. Important to remember. And comes across a ring box, and he goes to open it, and a huge alarm starts sounding, which started a half-hour long argument with the dungeon master, because, you know, I'm a rogue. It was a magical trap. I can detect magical traps. What was the DC on it? Oh, 35. Okay, so I should have been able to detect it. At the end, we said, fine, whatever. The shopkeep started coming downstairs, put on my robe of invisibility, and I sat there. So he turns off the alarm, and then I'm like, you know what I'm going to do now? I sat in the middle of the room with my flint and steel, started a fire. As the shopkeep goes to escape, the raven ends up shooting his crossbow and pins his hand to the windowsill until it broke and he fell. So, you know, the place burned down. All that was left was all the magical items, because they were protected, they were magical. And Alucard disguised himself as a guard, using a hat of disguise, so, you know, he didn't even look like him. And he walks over and he's like, this is clearly arson, but I think he did it. He did it for the insurance. It's the only thing logical. He's the only person here. He's the only person that could have done it. This fire was started inside the shop. The front door was locked. So, you know, he got arrested, which obviously put him out of business. And then Alucard goes in and he's like, you know what? I'm going to take all of this as evidence, and start shoving everything else in his bag of holding. It was beautiful. Afterward, we were all, like, the DM and I were going through what all Alucard had grabbed. It was fantastic. It was something over like 400,000 platinum pieces worth of equipment that was just taken for evidence. So there you have it, my least and most favorite rogues. Thank you for joining me as we went over the level 1 rogue statistics for Dungeons & Dragons 3.5. All that's left in the base classes are the Sorcerer and the Wizard, which means soon we'll be getting started on skills and feats and equipment, go into more details for like combat and things like that. Gonna start getting into the Player's Handbook 2 to go over those base classes as well, and we'll go from there. By then you should be able to play a game. So I think that's really all there is to cover it. Don't forget that if you'd like to see other things on the channel, you can comment in the description, or in the comment section below, not the description. And again, if you'd like to support the channel, you can do so at the Patreon and shop links in the description below. So thank you for joining me. And right about now, you should be getting a subscribe button up here, latest video on the channel over here, video recommended for you by YouTube over here, and over here will be the Dungeons & Dragons tutorial playlist. So again, thank you for joining me, and as always, have a peaceful day. Bye.